Hey there, Patty Dominguez here with episode 59 of the Positioning to Profit podcast. I am so excited to share with you. I have a guest today. It's Emily Cassel. She is a soulful business and leadership coach for women entrepreneurs. She is also a podcast host, international retreat leader, and champion of women, and is a firm believer that your big, crazy dream is totally possible. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is just sharing this concept of starting an online business. And in her case, she started it, I believe, at the age of 22. So it's just so cool to see more and more people forging ahead, starting their online business, especially in this day and age when, gosh, if there's ever been a better time, it's now. So check out this episode. Yeah, it's chock full of really great stuff. So here we go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Emily Cassel, thank you so much for being on the Positioning to Profit podcast. It is so great to have you here, and I'm excited to share you and your genius with my audience.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here too. This was like one of the highlights of my day's schedule. Well, really my week.
Aw, that's so awesome. I know I was on your podcast, so I'll put in the show notes the podcast that I was on your show, but I want to make this about you today. So give us the 3-minute story about your background prior to doing what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I was always interested in psychology. I got a Bachelor of Arts in psychology at an all-women's college. And that was such a special experience. And to be in an environment that was sort of this little microcosm of like what it would be like if women ruled the world and how things would be different was really cool. And I learned a lot through that. And through that experience, I was exposed to a lot of women in leadership, a lot of women in business, a lot of women in politics. And, you know, I would think about like, what would be possible if all women had this opportunity, if all women had this form of mentorship and these types of models in their corner, when they were thinking about and considering what they wanted to do with their lives and what kind of impact they wanted to create. I was also at the time really interested in sustainable food systems. So I guess there's a common thread there around like a holistic bottom-up approach to solving problems and thinking about the systems that we're in, right? With sort of like a patriarchal world and a very industrialized system of food production and agriculture and industry. And really my vision was like at the time just to like solve all the problems. It's like, if we could just get more women in government to get more diversity happening, and if we could just fix the food system, I think we'd be in a really good position. So
yeah,
that
so
was
empowering.
inspiring.
Yeah, that's so empowering. And so now when you say that you support ambitious and soulful women to launch, grow, scale, soul-aligned businesses that create world-changing impact and income, I get where you're coming from, the world-changing impact, now that you've mentioned kind of your background. But talk to us about, because there's a lot of business coaches out there in the online marketing space, and you and I on your podcast had this whole topic around bro marketing and like and what's happening. And so we are adding this whole dimension of that female energy to it. We're also different in that, but I agree. I have this group coaching program and it happens to be all women, and I'm so excited about it. I'm like, no boys, yay. Not that we don't like the boys, but it's been so rewarding, Emily. So when you say that you help them with soul-aligned businesses, does this, so is it tie in the femininity part of it? Explain that.
Absolutely. Yes. That is one of the major components. And also everything that I do through the lens of sisterhood. So I don't just offer private coaching anymore. I have programs and things to meet women where they are on their entrepreneurial journey that really support them both in a sense of community and sisterhood with other women, to really create that like incubator for their genius to come through, for their brilliance to come through, for them to feel really like free to express whatever it is that wants to flow through them. And that there's no judgment, and there's just like this unconditional love happening there. And I think about it like a womb, that we create a collective womb together in sisterhood when the space is all women. It's like we create this collective womb through which each of us can be truly like reborn into who we're becoming next. And I think that that is so powerful and so necessary. And there are very few places in the world now, like in our normal day-to-day lives, that we actually have that sense of like a held container of sisterhood, like it doesn't really happen that often by default. So
it's so true. And the interesting side of it is that in this new normal, as we've heard, it's so cliche now to hear the new normal thing, but it's so true in that even though things are changing, it's even more of a time to be online. It's even more of an opportunity to create the sense of community online. And the beautiful thing about it is that can be facilitated if you have that right mix, right? If you have the right ethos and around what is the kind of culture that you're looking to create. So that personalization does not get lost because we are online. Have you found that to be the case? Have you found that more people are gravitating to like, yes, I want to be a part of this community or a community in general?
Yeah. And I've been doing, since the beginning of my business in 2014, I wanted to be like fully online so that I could be location independent.
Oh, that's so good.
So I've done certain things over the years, like events and retreats and things in person. But for the most part, I've always been online. So it's fun to see people being like, oh, look what's possible now that we can be online and just be together and still get that experience, and even have a deeper experience potentially than we would if we were just in person together, in, doing whatever we're doing, meeting for a happy hour or something.
Yeah. So I talk about the concept of different is better than better. What do you think is your different?
I think my different is really this like soulful feminine approach that I bring to merge with the strategic wisdom of business, because both are so, so necessary, and both are so, so beautiful when they're in balance and when they're in harmony together. But oftentimes we only see them separate, which I think is a challenge in almost everything in our world, right? It's like in government, in these certain structures, and in society, and all the pieces, they tend to be divided. We tend to see those things not coexisting, and things that should be together in like a holistic form have been torn apart somehow, like psychology and nutrition. Like these two things need to collaborate and integrate and intermingle, but we only see them as separate categories, right? And so I think the real magic happens when we really bridge both the soul and the strategy when it comes to business.
I love that. I love that. It's kind of like the right brain and the left brain side of things,
Exactly. Yeah. The masculine, the feminine, the yin and yang. Yes. And I think we really need both to work together to create something that's in alignment, right? That's actually potent, that's actually impactful, and that's profitable and sustainable, that you can actually keep going with, that isn't just like a one-hit wonder or something that works once, but then never works again because it's trendy or something. Like we need to be thinking about sustainability. And I think that that's something right now in these times that is really at the forefront for a lot of people.
I love that. Okay. So as we're transitioning, because I love these types of stories, even though I'm not trying to twist the knife or recall pain, what is something that hasn't worked in your marketing? Like a horror story, because I love those. It's just such a great springboard for a good lesson in life.
Oh, I can think of one thing just right off the top of my head, which is that I once tried to hire out and like delegate to someone else to create my like sales email sequence for like my mastermind launch, which is a very like intimate personal experience. Yeah. And that completely flopped.
How so?
I think it needed to be my voice.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't land for people, I think.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having to kind of like move the dates and redo everything for the most part in my own voice and actually speak the truth of like, what's the experience that I am creating and holding and offering for these people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's so much like a marketing thing or if it's more of on the like delegating fail. But
Yeah, I actually think it's both, because I think the thing with copywriting is it's so personal. At least I've always learned, like, okay, your offer has to be on point, the copywriting has to be on point, and then of course there has to be the message to market match. And copy is that it's so personal. And unless you have a copywriter that is so rigorous about finding the finer level details of not only your market but you, and I have not, it is few and far between copywriters that actually go that extensive, right? That go the extra route. So I can totally sense that. And that's where I'm like, ugh, because for me, writing isn't necessary. I don't mind it, but it's not natural. So I totally agree. It's like at the beginning, you do want to make sure that your brand tonality is there, that it's really reflective of who you are. Because then it could go off rails, and you could attract somebody that you never intended to attract. And that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I learned that pretty quickly, that it just needed to come through me. And that was the magic of it. You know, like that was the sticky part, or like the magnetic part that actually drew people in, was that it was infused with my soul's energy, right? Like my mission and my purpose and my essence. That's the way that they're connecting with me, is through the words, right?
Yeah.
On a screen or through email or something. And so it needed to come through me. Another reason why I do write all of my own social media copy.
You do?
And yeah, I do all of it.
So good.
And it's a ritual for me. And it's a nice thing that I get to do every week, is like, what's the message I feel called to share this week with people? And what is it that I'm learning that's helpful for them? And what have I noticed in my client, sessions in the past few weeks that's really like relevant, that I could share, that could help people. So yeah, I think that's one thing that I've learned for sure about my marketing personally, because my brand is me in a lot of ways, it's like, and the way that I work with people is still so intimate, even though I'm scaling my business, it's still, they're getting me.
I love that.
Yeah. I've never felt called to create something that's really impersonal, even though from a logical, like business perspective and profitability, it sounds like a really smart idea, but it's not something that I actually feel called to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't believe, there's some people that stand out right straight away, that they've been able to scale their business significantly, but never let go of who they really are, like their real brand personality. I love that. I couldn't agree with you more. Just because you're scaling doesn't mean you have to compromise the message, like the you that makes you you. So give us an example of somebody that you've helped for them to, grow and scale their own, what you call soul aligned business. Okay, we're about halfway through with this episode, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about my new Positioning to Profit quiz, so that you can discover how to use the key pillars of positioning to give yourself the ultimate edge for your business. It's an assessment, personalized plan of action to overcome these roadblocks that are keeping you from even more profit. So head on over to positioningquiz.com. All right, let's continue with the show.
Yeah, let me think about. Okay, so one recent person who I adore is a tattoo artist. And she came to me last September, so almost a year ago now, and joined my Business Alchemy Circle program, and had this idea for like opening a space, like opening a physical location, tattoo studio, an art studio where she could serve her people. And like, it could be a space where women felt really safe getting tattoos and things. And not just like this macho masculine, like biker gang vibe, like that there would be a totally different energy to it and like a healing space
I love
for this experience, which I was like, yes, this is so great. I can see the vision. Let's do it. So when she came to me, she was having trouble even like booking out, small tattoos at the studio she was working in at the time. That wasn't hers, but she was, working out of there as a tattoo artist. And we set some like audacious goals and got clear on her vision and things like that, and started working the plan and the strategy. And she was able to open her own space. And I think it was like 3 months in to the program, which was crazy, because she said, in the next 6 months, this would be a win if I could find a physical location, right? Like if I could find the place to then rent and have like a little bit of savings ready to go and do it, that would be awesome. And that was the goal. And it ended up happening in like half the time. And then after that, she was booked out. And even with COVID hitting, she's been like, she's booked out through the end of September right now as this recording, which is like
the summer,
July. Yeah. So she's like doing great, even though all of that. And then when COVID hit and she couldn't actually operate in her tattoo studio anymore, she started doing all of these other really cool creative projects and working on Oracle decks and doing art and illustration and custom, what is that called? Commissioned pieces, commissioned art pieces that literally it was so magical because she was really listening to herself, right? Like she was really listening to what her soul was asking of her at that time and how she felt called to serve and how specifically what would feel fun for her to do.
I was going to ask you, like, what do you think that this whole pandemic thing has meant to her? And it sounds like it really opened up this creative space, the ability for her to pivot in the space that she needed to, and she was okay with it because she had the tools. She had the tools to explore and not freak out and not get into that fear state. That's amazing.
Totally. And that's actually been the most fun part of this whole thing for me, because I've gotten to get so creative with my clients and they have gotten so creative in solutions and problem solving, which is like my favorite part of what I get to do as a coach. It's like, okay, you have a problem, bring it to me. Let's figure it out. I want to solve it. And I want to figure out like a billion creative solutions. And then we can just pick one that feels fun to you. And then you're off and running.
I love that.
No time wasted. So
yeah. So what would be your tips, like a few tips or whatever for somebody that's doing a side hustle? And you say here that, okay, you ready to start your side hustle or take it full time or starting to make money with your new biz. I have found, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, that more people are open to launching something online. And so it's such a great time for us, right? That we've been ahead of the curve in that way. So what are some things that people can do to just start with this idea?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that people want to skip over that. Like, it's much sexier to be like, oh, I'm going to put up a beautiful website and I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to get my LLC or whatever. People skip over having a clear vision first and really knowing, like, what is my mission in this? Why does it matter for me, for the world, for the people I serve? What is the problem I'm actually solving? And getting really clear on, one, your vision, like the big picture vision of where you would love for this to go. If you could wave a magic wand and make everything exactly the way you want it, what would that look and feel like? Right? And really getting super, super clear, like down to the tiny details of exactly what you are desiring to create with this thing. And I think in doing that, in my experience, I think what's really happening when we do that is that we are basically channeling and like downloading. This is what is meant to come through me. This is what would feel really fun and enlivening to me. And that's the fuel source that keeps you going when shit gets hard. Cause it does.
Yes.
Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Unexpected things pop up all the time. A business without problems is not in business. So that's what you can basically count on, is that there are going to be challenges and problems to solve constantly. So what's going to be worth it to you when those roadblocks arise, or when those growth opportunities show up? What is it about that? Where are you going? What makes it worth it? Why are you doing what you're doing? And what's the problem you're solving for people? I think those are two really key things to figure out before you even start like figuring out, oh, is this financially feasible? Is it, do I want to put up a website? Do I want to reserve my social media handles? What do I call this thing? Before you even go into all of that, you need to be really clear on like, what is the vision for this and what's the purpose of that vision?
Okay. I could not agree with you more, because what that is, in my interpretation, what that's saying to the person who is listening to this is that what you're saying, and I echo the sentiment 100%, Emily, is that people are so focused on the website, the logo, the this and that, and all that shit is external. Yeah, and what you're saying is we need something substantive, and then that starts internally. Mm-hmm. And that's really where it starts. And with what you said, because one of the things that I found is that people get kind of scared, or they try to overanalyze. Like, well, these are the thoughts that I'm having. Like, do you think it makes sense? Well, I don't know. It has to make sense for you. Right. But if you're pushing it away because you're uncomfortable, then that's not very fair, because it's like your soul's begging you for something bigger, better, different. And you pushing it away is like you're trying to how do you even say, like, you're trying to make sense of something that is new, and it could be scary, but you just have to roll with it, because if it's coming through you, there's a reason. And that's how I explain it. If it's coming through you, there's a reason. If it doesn't manifest through you, the universe will find another container. So what's it going to be? Right. Yeah. So I couldn't agree with you more. That's such a great way to say it, is that it starts internally first. Yes, that's the opportunity.
Exactly. And it's like, in my mind, and when I speak to women about their businesses, the women that I work with anyway, who want to create a soulful business that is truly like fulfilling and freeing and in flow and purposeful and profitable too. What they say is basically, I can't not do this thing. Like, I can't not do, like, why am I doing this? Because this is like what I'm literally put on this earth to do. And I think we forget that this is a calling. Like, it's not just a business. It's not just an enterprise. It's like, this is what your purpose is, and it can be profitable. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to like negotiate those two things. It doesn't have to be either profitable or purposeful or fulfilling or financially sustainable. It can be all of those things at the same time. And I think we just don't hear that message enough, or see enough examples of that, because we hear so many stories and so many horror stories and so many success stories about like, oh, well, I just had this idea and it was something I didn't know anything about or didn't really care about. And I franchised this and then I got rich and woohoo, which is great too. But like, that's not really what people are coming to me for all the time. Like, that might be part of the big plan for them, but usually it's like, I really want to do work that I'm lit up by, that makes a difference.
I love that.
And then I want to scale that. And then I want to make great money doing that. And then but that's the core, right?
I love it. So what do you think is next for you in your business?
That's a great question. Right now I'm at a place where I'm like, I just want more people at the party. Like, I've built the programs and the offerings that feel really juicy and really aligned and that get results for people that are amazing and that are really beautiful experiences. And now I'm just like, let's keep like, I want to expand my capacity internally, like in myself as an individual. I want to expand my capacity to serve more women doing the work that I love in the ways that I've kind of set it up already, because it really, like, it's awesome to watch them work the process through the experience that I've woven for them. Yes. It's so awesome.
I can totally appreciate that. It's really rewarding to see, yes, your work come to life, but that it's creating transformation.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's super rewarding. Agree.
Yeah. And like personal transformation, but also they're making great money and they're like putting their thing out finally, and they're launching their business and they're getting amazing clients to work with, and they're loving that. And then everything else just starts expanding and rippling out. And it's like this upward spiral of so much goodness. And I love, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I just love awesome. Like cheering them on.
That's so cool. All right. As we're turning the corner, person, place, or thing, what is something that deeply inspires you?
Oh my gosh. You like hit me off guard with that one. I love it. Let's see. Well, I'm going to go with Charleston, South Carolina, where I am now. I just moved back here after a couple of years away. I was living in Philadelphia for those few years, and I just got back here, and just the nature here, the plant life, the sort of tropical, like abundant, everything's blooming right now. It's so beautiful. There's always something green. Just the lushness and the abundance that I feel here is so awesome. And like the beach is there and the city is there, and it's just easy to get between them. It's really like, I'm grateful to be back here. And that, I was just saying,
you're making it sound so inviting.
It is. And it's so like the history, like not the history itself. There's some dark history here that is being healed and transformed. And that's really inspiring too, to see. And the buildings and the colors and the architecture and all of that just has a really distinctive vibe. It's like a well-branded city in a way. I don't know if they intended that in the beginning, but it is. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
What is a surprising business trend that you never expected to see? And it could be good or bad.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I was thinking good, and now I'm like, bad? Is that easier to think about?
I was going to say there's plenty of bad in our space.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, gosh. I'm sure I could think of something more thoughtful down the line, but what I'm excited to see, I'll say, is that there are way more like meal delivery things happening right now. Mm-hmm. Like it's making it so much more possible to stay home and to let it be easy. Like I love that is happening, that like DoorDash and Grubhub and Postmates and all of these services exist. And also that like restaurants and things are working with those apps. And then also that like certain companies, like there's a place here in Charleston that started doing meal prep. So you can like go pick up bulk meals for the week from this place. It's really good and healthy. So I feel like I love that because it's making it more accessible.
Yeah. Convenience.
Yeah. Like, I guess the overall trend would be like convenience and who knew it could be this convenient? Like even 10 years ago, who knew that it could be possible for our lifestyles to be this convenient and to be able to like basically not leave our homes if we don't absolutely have to or want to, right?
Right.
If we don't want to for our own sanity right now, we can stay home and have everything delivered. And I think that's really freaking cool.
Yeah, that is. So if you weren't an entrepreneur, what would you be doing, do you think, as a career?
I think I would be a buyer, like a fashion buyer, because I'm obsessed for my whole life with like clothes and accessories. And I love anthropology, and I would probably want to work there as like a buyer, which then would probably lead me to have my own boutique.
I love that.
Or my own fashion company later. So I think at my core, I would always be an entrepreneur. It would just be what segment, or I would be on Broadway because like your son, I think you said it was your son.
Yeah.
Right?
My eldest. Yeah.
Yeah. I am like always performing around my house. I'm probably annoying everyone. I'm singing all the time.
Oh, you are too? So you're a singer?
That's me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm like really, I love singing like either Broadway or like country for some reason. Those are like pop country and Broadway. They're my go-to genres for singing. I don't know if it's like my vocal range just fits better in those categories, if there's kind of similarities.
It's your jam. Like either one of All right. So here's the advice question. What positioning advice would you give someone who's looking to start their business or grow their business?
Oh, well, okay. I think I would tell them to really, I guess this counts as positioning. You can tell me if it does or doesn't. I would tell them to really follow what their soul is asking them, like what they're feeling called to do, what feels fun, because in doing that, you will naturally have authentic, honest, aligned positioning as a result of listening to your inner wisdom, your higher self, and actually pursuing that and acting in accordance with what that information is telling you to do or not do based on how you feel when you're doing it. Right.
Exactly it. Yeah. It's just being really aligned and true to who you are and what your soul is telling you. I couldn't agree with you more. That is a great segue because you have a freebie that you're sharing with my audience. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I have a training. It's a free training for them. I think it might be actually 2 hours long.
Oh, wow.
Because I got carried away and I was like, I have so much to say about this topic. But it's the Soulful Business Vision Training that I've created, which walks you through, no matter what stage of business you're in, it walks you through how to either start dreaming bigger or start dreaming about your business in the first place and really set yourself up for success from the get-go and do what we talked about earlier, which is like start from that internally sourced place of what is your calling? What do you really deeply feel called to pursue? What is your soul saying to you? And how do you learn to act and live and lead in accordance with that and in alignment with that?
I love that. And so the business vision, is that what you're calling it? Like a masterclass?
Yes, I think so. Okay. What is it called? I haven't looked at it in a while.
Yeah, I was going to, okay. Yeah. So, but it will be in the show notes. And Emily Cassel is emilycassel.com, CASSEL.com. And you can find Emily, of course, on Instagram at Emily Cassel Official, as well as Facebook, Emily Cassel Official. And check out the business vision, I'm calling it a masterclass, masterclass that you're doing, because it sounds like it's chock full of really great information, and knowing that wherever you're at, don't look at the external stuff. Stick with the internal is what I want to say. Stick with the internal first, because that's going to set you on the right path. And we're both in agreement in that one. And so definitely check that out. It will be in the show notes of this episode. So don't miss that. And with that, Emily, thank you so much for being on the Positioning to Profit podcast. It's such an honor to have you, and I wish you massive, massive success.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.